Hey, welcome to another installment of Catching Up. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jake.
And this week we're going to be talking to Bryan Edward Hill about his new Image Comics Top Cow series, Aphrodite V, out in comic book stores everywhere on Wednesday, July 18th. But you know, Bryan also does Detective Comics. He's also writing Miles Morales. He's co-writing Cyberforce with friend of the show, Matt Hawkins. He just did the Hong Kong Phooey special for DC with Black Lightning. It's a pretty cool team up right there. But, you know, let's let him talk about it. And joining us this week is Bryan Edward Hill. He's the writer of the upcoming Image Comics Top Cow series, Aphrodite V, out in comic book stores everywhere and Comixology on Wednesday, July 18th. He's also the incoming writer for Detective Comics. You can see him do, handle Miles Morales over in the Marvel Universe. You've got him. He's recently teamed up Black Lightning with Hong Kong Phooey, #1 super guy. Bryan, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me on, man.
So I feel like, you know, as I literally just listed all of that stuff, you are having a bit of a banner year. You're also, you know, co-writing the Cyberforce relaunch with Matt Hawkins, who's been on our fine program a couple times. How do you keep all those kind of plates spinning?
You know, I don't sleep very often, and I don't socialize at all. So that's how you do it, folks. So everyone out here who wants to know how you can become a professional storyteller, the key is insomnia and a complete absence from the social scene.
I feel like I've got both of those things down. I just need to somehow lock down Space Ghost, and I will be aces. But
Space Ghost!
He was always a favorite of mine. I grew up watching all the Hanna-Barbera stuff, so seeing you team Black Lightning with Hong Kong Phooey, there was a minute there where I was like, that's just perfect. That's just like Grindhouse DC with probably the most Grindhouse Hanna-Barbera character. This is like a match made in heaven.
Oh yeah, I got to justify, you know, all of that blaxploitation music I listened to. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, oh, no, see, honey, I listened to it, and then the story comes out. So you have to let me play it in our place real loud. Yeah. And my wife was very patient with all that.
It was very much kind of like, look, this is research, dear. I need to listen to the Rubber Band Man and basically all of the Shaft soundtrack right now.
Yeah, totally. Trouble Man by Marvin Gaye, actually. You know, it's funny. I spent like a week calling people jive turkeys. You know, I'm kind of a method writer, so.
So that, you know, you're here to talk about Aphrodite V. I have to ask, what is the method to get into dystopian near future Los Angeles complete with cybernetic warriors?
Oh, well, you know, it's a combination of music. Like, I just got into this group called The Midnight, and they are amazing. They're a retro wave group. They got an album. I forgot what the album's called. Might be like Nocturnal, I think, is the last release. But they're incredible. So, you know, you listen to like kind of cool synthy 80s action music. You watch Tony Scott movies, watch Little RoboCop, Ghost in the Shell, you know, all that stuff, man. Like all that stuff. You just gotta get that all in your head, you know?
Oh yeah, that's the mindset, you know, dead or alive, you're coming with me, yeah.
And for those who don't know, that was my rendition of the opening credits of Ghost in the Shell, composed by Kenji Kawai, which sounds much better than what I just did, but it's very accurate if you don't know.
It was a very spirited rendition.
Right, it's a thought that counts.
It's spirited. It's spirited. That's right. That's a good adjective. Spirited.
So between Aphrodite V and co-writing Cyberforce, you've kind of got the what is it about writing these cybernetic characters that kind of attracts you as a storyteller? This is me putting my interview cap back on, but that it kind of attracts you as a story. Yes, yeah.
Serious voice. Serious voice.
Yeah, this is a legitimate question. Yeah.
Yes. Well, you know, I've always been kind of interested in transhumanism. You know, the idea of technological upgrades and what that would do to the definition of humanity and all of that. And I am kind of a cyberpunk guy. You know, I like everyone. I read William Gibson and thought that was really cool. Then I went to nonfiction and started to read Ray Kurzweil and got terrified for a bit. So I've thought that those characters in that world could be really interesting. And I have a penchant for kind of adrenalized techno action. I mean, maybe it's because I saw the Terminator when I was a kid, and it completely blew my mind.
Mm.
You know, and you're watching, you know, kind of that tone, you know, the kind of like the horror movie tone, really, that it has. I mean, that's essentially what the Terminator is. Terminator is basically a slasher film. And you know, the kind of the dread and all of that, but with the kinetics and the ballistics, I'm just kind of really into it. So when Matt approached me about Cyberforce and Aphrodite and asked me if I was interested, I was like, yeah, I am. I have some stuff to tell in that space. And there really aren't a lot of characters where you can fully explore that kind of energy. I mean, you have like a X-Man here and there, like a Cable or something, you know. You can do a little bit of it there. But, you know, that world of Cyberforce is housed completely in that cybernetic, you know, android, cyborg, like ballistic kind of territory. I mean, hell, I even have a character called Ballistic, so it tells you exactly where you are. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it just seemed like a perfect fit to put that energy in. And that's what really draws me to books. You know, it's like, well, do I have this part of me just want to live in that space? Mm. And if the answer is yes, then I want to go ahead and do that book. If the answer is no, then I tell people, well, I'm probably not the right guy for you.
Well, based on that axiom, what was it that attracted you to write Postal?
Oh, well, you know, it's funny, man. I just got like finished with In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about like a character-driven, kind of homegrown, in the dark crevices of the American diaspora sort of story. And I sat down, had a cup of coffee with Matt, and we just started talking. And he's like, you know, I got this idea about this town. And this town's full of criminals, and the mailman, he's been diagnosed on the Asperger's spectrum, but he's also kind of the detective, and he's, you know, sort of figuring out things and all that. And I was like, well, that's kind of interesting. I can do something with that. So I went home, and I put together like a page of thoughts that I had for Matt. Like, we could do this, we could do that, you know, kind of outlining a little bit more detail and Laura and Maggie and the characters in Postal, and he read it and responded to it, and you know, there we are. So yeah, I mean, it just happened to be like the right place for me at the time.
Kind of. Well, you had mentioned Gibson, you had mentioned Capote. Is there something? Was that always kind of an influence, like prose novels more so over comic books, or did they kind of work in tandem as you kind of came up as both a fan and then a writer?
I mean, yeah, not more so over. I mean, when you read like Grant Morrison or Neil Gaiman or Warren Ellis or Frank Miller, you know, any of you know, those folks, you can tell that they're influenced by more than comics in their comics, right? So, in addition to reading the comics I loved, I tried to also seek out the kind of work that I thought may have influenced them, or I heard them mention something in an interview, you know, and you just go kind of track it down, and then you take a look at it. You know, I also write screenplays and television as well, so I'm always combining influences all over the place. You know, it's, I guess the word would be syncretic if we were going to use a fancy word. You know, that kind of speaks to who I am, you know, kind of as a creator, pulling from all sorts of different influences in order to like come up with a cohesive vision.
You know, this is going to sound a little left field, but you since you invoked Terminator, the original Terminator earlier, this is a debate we kind of have on the show semi-regularly. Are you more a Terminator 1 guy or more a T2 Judgment Day guy?
You know, as a kid, I think Terminator 2, like the experience of it was something I'd never had in a movie theater before. Mm-hmm. You know, just the way that Cameron was relentless about those sequences. Because Cameron does this really interesting thing. Most people will just do an action sequence and it'll be about the beat, the action beat, whatever the beat is. But because you've seen so many action films, you can kind of tell when it's going to stop. Well, Cameron always takes things an extra beat. So like in T2, when Sarah, the T-800, and John get away from the T-1000 in the parking lot, normally that would be the end of the sequence. But then Cameron has the T-1000 start sprinting and catching up with the car, and then it stretches out into this completely other sequence with the, you know, the semi and everything else, right? Mm-hmm. And then, you know, normally when the motorcycle takes the jump and goes off the thing, you know, you'd be done, but you're not done because the semi is going to go through the wall and come down into the ravine. So that whole experience was really formative for me, But I will say, as I've like grown older and revisited the films, Terminator 1 has just that emotional pull for me. It's just, there's something about it that's a little more soulful, and I think because it's a little more intimate, because it didn't have any money to really do it in a huge way, that's the one that I revisit more often, I guess. So if I had to choose between the two, I'd say the first Terminator.
That's funny because that's 100% what I said. You said it much more eloquently. I was like, because when I was younger, it was T2 all the way.
Terminator 1 better.
Terminator 1 better because he says, fuck you, asshole.
Terminator 1 better, you know what I mean? Because in the first movie, we did not have the money and these kinds of things, so we had to do it with the heart and the soul,
That's right. Yeah. But, like, I was like, I joking, like, I know I'm getting older because the first Terminator movie is now my favorite out of those two.
You're that way about Alien as well.
Yeah. Well, the first Alien's always been my favorite. But yeah, the first Terminator, and that's a good point about T2 with the action beat, because like I think any other movie, Hasta la Vista Baby would be the kill shot. That would be like
right?
the end of the movie.
You won. You had a cool line. The villain got killed in a cool way. Roll credits. Go out, throw a party, Coke, whatever.
Yeah. But then you get this whole other thing that's just like so intense and so many more stakes and everything else. Yeah, that's a good point with the. And
for the kids listening to this, don't buy Coke. That was a joke. Drugs are bad for you. Just say no.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, if Nancy Reagan taught me anything, it's that. Did Nancy Reagan teach me anything?
I don't know. You brought it up.
Nancy Reagan and Don Johnson scared the living hell out of me when I was a kid, man. Like I can't get further away from narcotics. Between Miami Vice and Nancy Reagan, like it worked on me. So.
I remember every arcade game in like the late 80s and early 90s had that Just Say No flash screen.
Oh yeah, like Bad Dudes and all that stuff, man. Like yeah. There's something to that. There's definitely something to it.
So, you live in Los Angeles, you work in the entertainment industry. What made you want to set Aphrodite V in the City of Angels? What made that the perfect setting for this kind of if we're talking Terminator like T-800, T-1000 going head mano a mano, was there a bit of Terminator influence with using the similar setting and putting two war robots up against each other?
Well, I'm such an 80s guy, it kind of weaves through all of my work. I just kind of live and breathe the 80s. And in the 80s, Los Angeles was the action city. In the 70s, it may have been more like New York, right? You got your French connections and, like your Serpico's, kind of more of like an East Coast thing, and I guess Dirty Harry was San Francisco, but that was a San Francisco that felt like New York anyway, right? Mm-hmm. But in the 80s, it was just LA, man. It was movies that only take place at dusk and dawn, no matter what time of day it was in the narrative. The sky was always burning orange and the sun was about to set, There's just something about those images and those films that always resonated with me. And if you look at the cover to Aphrodite, you'll see a direct nod to RoboCop on the cover. It's Aphrodite kind of coming out with her ballistic weapon, standing halfway out of a squad car, and that's the feel that I wanted for it. I wanted Aphrodite 5 to feel like when I was a kid and I walked into Blockbuster Video because it was Friday and I had done well on like a test at school. So my mom would let me go pick out a movie, and she let me pick anything I want. I could watch the rated R movies when I was a kid, because my mom was cool. And you walk up to that wall of films, and you would just see like this robot man coming out of a car, and like part man, part machine, all cop, and you're like, I don't know what this is, but I need this in my brain. And then you go home and you watch it, and it's just like hyperbolic and nutty and crazy, but you came away from that like humming the theme song, kind of walking really stiff, going like dun, 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 doing the whole thing. And that's the experience I wanted to do with Aphrodite 5. I wanted to create something that readers who haven't been following Aphrodite beat by beat through Cyberforce, through all the ages, could just hop on because it looked cool. Because I talked to Jeff Spokes, he's a great artist. Mm-hmm. And I told Jeff, I was like, hey man, this first cover, I really want it to be something that triggers an impulse buy from people. You're just walking by those racks and you're looking at stuff and you see something, you're like, oh, what's this? I want to pick this up. And then you open it, you pick it up, you hold it in your hands, you page through it, and you get some cool action, cool looking characters, some snappy dialogue, and you're like, yeah, I'm in for this. I don't really know this world, or I'm not really familiar with this character. I mean, I've seen like cosplayers, but I haven't read the books, all of that, and sort of expand that readership out from just the core, while at the same time creating a story that's rewarding for core Cyberforce fans as well. So yeah, it was it's a lot of Tony Scott thinking and Michael Mann and James Cameron, and kind of all of those '80s filmmakers that I idolized at the time and still admire very, very much.
I want to point out to longtime listeners of this program, we were not the ones that initiated the RoboCop discussion this time, which is kind of huge because whenever
I'll find a way somehow to get someone to talk about RoboCop.
Yeah, Matt Horak, Rich Tommaso, Mark Bernardin, whenever they're on the show, RoboCop.
Can you fly, buddy?
Well, I was just gonna say, I think Brian, you just became my best friend.
Oh yeah, we are brothers in RoboCop, man.
Yeah. No, I mean,
wait a minute, wait a minute. Are you a college boy or something? I bet you think you're smarter than me, huh?
It's funny because like everything you were saying about RoboCop, I was like, that's me, that's my life. Granted, the funny thing is, my parents had no clue what they were doing because I saw RoboCop when I was 5.
Yeah,
and
they just saw a robot.
They saw the cover because I was like Ninja Turtles, I was in all this, Batman, Superman, Spider-Man. And they just saw the cover. I saw the cover, same kind of thing. I was like, "What? This is God. This is Jesus stepping out of a car." I
mean,
nothing else matters.
He is the future of law enforcement.
That's right.
Let's just be clear.
That's right. And so they rented it, having no idea what it was. Luckily, they know very little about pop culture. And it went home, and we started watching it. And immediately, my mom was mortified because my mom hates any kind of violence whatsoever or anything. So
that's not
oh my goodness! Yeah, I'm sure RoboCop was a moment in your house.
Yo, yeah. So the story I've told a million times, but I think you'll appreciate it, is that my mom is like, "Get Greg, my dad, get this off. Put on Ninja Turtles, get this off." And all I wanted to see was RoboCop in action. I didn't care about anything else. I didn't care about story. I just wanted to see him on the screen moving. And so I was like, "I'm not watching Ninja Turtles. I've seen it a million times." And my mom was like, "Greg, just fast forward to RoboCop. Just find him. I'm leaving. This is disgusting. I'm horrified." And so she leaves the room, and my dad is like, "Oh, okay." And he fast forwards to the scene that he stops on is the scene in the shooting range where they're all they're in 9mm or whatever sticking out, and then RoboCop's massive gun, and they're all like, "What the fuck?" And they all look, and I look over. My dad was like,
I think it's Supercop.
Yeah. My dad is like, as he's fast forwarding, he's like, "This is it, Jake, and we're going to bed. This is a nightmare. This whole day is a nightmare." And so he presses play, and it stops on RoboCop shooting, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And I look over, my dad fell asleep, and I watched the rest of the movie by myself, and it shaped my entire life.
RoboCop. I saw RoboCop way earlier than I should have. My brain was still forming.
Yeah.
And I saw RoboCop, and it irrevocably changed me forever.
Yeah.
So I am the product of Paul Verhoeven movies, for better or worse. But listen, I had to kill Bob Morton because he made a mistake. Now it's time to erase that mistake.
From here on out, this interview will be conducted solely in RoboCop quotes.
Oh, it's so good.
Solely in RoboCop quote.
That's amazing.
Behave yourselves. That's RoboCop 2.
Dan O'Hurlihan, the unsung hero of genre film.
Yeah.
Halloween 3, if memory serves.
Oh, I mean, he was the closer, man. He was like Lance Henriksen before Lance Henriksen became the genre closer. Like, they handed off the baton. Like, if you couldn't get, your movie to really make sense, or you didn't know how to put a little button on a scene, man, Dan O'Hurlihan, whatever, I think it's O'Hurlihan or something like that, whatever his name is, Lord bless that man, because he could make your scene work. Halloween 3, oh yeah, the Stonehenge rock, the masks are gonna kill you, dude with a mustache way over his head, all you need is him just standing there. Happy Halloween. Okay, this movie makes sense now. I get it. Great.
Silver Shamrock, baby.
Oh man, Silver Shamrock. I was listening to Halloween 3, the soundtrack this morning. Just as an aside, just real quick, I'm such a nerd that I reached out to Alan Howarth on Facebook. And Alan Howarth is Carpenter's longtime music collaborator. He kind of worked with him on most of the major themes, the Halloweens and Big Trouble in Little China and everything. And so I just reached out to him on Facebook, and I was like, hey, man, I'm a huge fan. I'd love to ask you some questions about music. So I'm a little bit of a musician in my spare time. And Alan was super cool. He was teaching up in Orange County, like working on sound design, I think, for theatrical presentations or something. And so he's like, yeah, man, if you come up to Orange County, we can have lunch. So I went up to, Orange County, had a salad with Alan Howarth, and got 3 hours of John Carpenter synth stories. And it was amazing.
Oh, my God. I mean, that's, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
the best.
Yeah. I mean, so that means you got to do a Top Cow horror book, like a full-fledged, I guess Postal kind of gets this kind of like weird suburban, like evil American dream thing going on. And you've kind of got the cybernetic horror, the James Cameron horror thing going on with Aphrodite V. You got to do the full-fledged Top Cow creator-owned horror next, Brian. That's the next step.
Yeah. I mean, I've got an idea like that I've been working on that I you might see pretty soon. I worked on Ash vs. Evil Dead on the 3rd season on Starz. So, that really got me thinking about doing something in the horror space. I think Top Cow would be a great place for it. I've just been so busy on other stuff and just haven't been able to fully form that idea to present it to somebody about publishing. But yeah, man, I love horror pictures, and I got a script that I wrote that I'm attached to direct, and we're trying to get the budget all the way together for it for me to make, and hopefully I can get that thing off in 2019. So yeah, I'm super in that space. I think really in general, horror is an element of a lot of different genres, and even if you're not a horror fan, if you have an understanding of how horror works, you can make other genres better. You can use those qualities of suspense and shock and atmosphere to do a whole host of stories, not just, horror stories in general. But yeah, man, I love the genre.
And I love that the genre is kind of in the middle of this, like, creative renaissance with Get Out, A Quiet Place.
Well, horror has traditionally been where you'd break a new filmmaker. Because horror is the one genre where people don't care if you have famous people in it. They just care if the movie is cool. Whether if it's an action film, they kind of care if they've seen somebody before. Drama, they certainly care if they've seen somebody before. Romantic comedies, what have you. But horror is the one genre where the superstar is the experience itself, right? Like, that's the key. If someone hears a horror movie is good, they're going to go watch it. It's like, what was that picture that came out not too long ago with the kids, and like they would have sex, and then like something would walk slowly and then get them.
It follows.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. It follows. So yeah, I mean, that was a movie where we didn't know anybody in that movie. At least I didn't know anybody in that movie, but I heard it was cool. I didn't know who directed it, who wrote it, whatever. I just saw a trailer. I heard people say it was great. I put it on. I watched it. I enjoyed it. Cool, And so it's always been the genre where if you're like Jordan Peele and you want to break out from strictly comedy into other things, you do a horror movie. Coppola came out of horror films. Like a lot of people came out of horror films. Cameron's first film was Piranha 2, The Spawning. So it used to be this incubation genre, and it's great to see it come back and do that again, because it's a way for a new director to kind of get their head around the idea of making a feature film while still being able to make something marketable and commercial that audiences enjoy.
Just to change gears, because I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't bring this up. You're tackling arguably the 2 biggest characters in comics next. You've got a Spider-Man and
Who's a Hong Kong Phooey? Yes.
Well, I love Hong Kong Phooey.
Hong Kong Phooey, the biggest character in all of comics.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's voiced by Scatman. You got the.
But let me check my Hong Kong book of Hong Kong Kung Fu. Yeah. So, I'm glad you.
Oh, I loved all the 70s Hanna-Barbera. That's like the unsung period of Hanna-Barbera. Everyone's like Flintstones and Jetsons. I'm like, that's fine. They're cool.
No, man, I used to watch everything until I got to Hong Kong Phooey, and that was my dude.
Yeah.
Hong Kong Phooey was my dude. But I have a sense that you weren't referencing Hong Kong Phooey in your question.
Well, I mean, we can circle back to the number one super guy in a moment, but the
yes, of course.
You're tackling arguably the 2 biggest superheroes next. You've got your about to start on Detective Comics. You're about to tackle the Dark Knight himself, and you've got a Spider-Man with Miles Morales, over at Marvel.
Yeah.
What do both of those characters mean to you, both as a fan and as a storyteller?
Well, I'm a huge Batman fan. I have a scrapbook in my mother's home in St. Louis, the home I grew up in, and it's all Batman stuff. It's stuff from like the first film and the second film. I have 2 ticket stubs from June 23rd, 1989, when the movie opened. It's the only movie that I saw at the matinee. I was blown away. I went back to the box office, bought a ticket for the evening show, went across the street, had a sandwich, came back and watched it again. And I've got all the trading cards, from the whole thing. I've got magazine clippings from like Entertainment Weekly and those books I was following all that stuff at the time, and I was a huge Batman fan. So being able to, journey full circle from being that weird kid who's reading The Dark Knight Returns in English class, or who's trying to write a paper on Morrison's Arkham Asylum or something, and your English teachers look at you like you're nuts. Being that kid, going through life and then coming to the point where you can actually write Batman is an amazing journey for me. I mean, I got chills the first time I started scripting Batman, because you're putting words in Batman's mouth. You're controlling what Batman is saying, and that is an amazing moment. Sorry, that's my dog. That's my dog judging my storytelling.
I'm glad it's not somebody else's dog. So
yeah. So let me just. I'm like Colonel Kurtz in Apocalypse Now. What's my dog? My dog is my critic. My only critic. So yeah. So it's an amazing thing, man, to be able to do that, because when a character means that much to you, you know how much that character means to other people, right? And I take it with the kind of the utmost humility and responsibility to the fans, to the readers, to DC Comics, to Scott and Tom and Jeff Johns and James Tynion and all these people. Yeah, and I just want to tell a really great Batman story that keeps the essence of, I think, who Batman is. I'll tell you, my work is equally influenced from comics and film. You're going to see shades of Frank Miller. You're going to see some Starlin in there. You're going to see something from like the Breyfogle era. Oh, wow. For sure. Also, you're going to see a little bit of Christopher Nolan, in the tone. And some of like the 1980s Gothic qualities of Batman as well. I mean, that's how I see the character. So yeah. And then when it comes to Spider-Man, yeah, Spider-Man's like another one of those characters that you just grow up loving all the time. And Miles means a lot to people. I didn't really know how much Miles Morales meant to people until they announced that annual. And then I started getting, the kind of emails and like, well, I guess DMs on Twitter and that sort of stuff. Because people were just really invested. So that's certainly making me take that as, seriously as I possibly can. We have Miguel Mendonça. I always pronounce his last name wrong. He'll have to forgive me for that one day. He's doing Detective with me. And then Nelson Blake II is doing the Miles annual with some pages from Bagley as well, Mark Bagley. So it should be a really great experience, both those books, I hope.
Everyone kind of has a different, well, not every, I mean, because there's only but so many, but I'm always interested by the variety of response on this. Who is your favorite Batman villain and who is your favorite Spider-Man villain?
I think Two-Face is my favorite Batman villain.
Interesting.
I'm a huge believer in redemption. I like to explore the idea of redemption in my stories. And the tragic qualities of Two-Face have always kind of just really, I don't know, made a mark on me emotionally. I mean, if you think about Batman the Animated Series, and it's like, Harvey, I don't know what kind of dreams you have, but no matter what happens, I will save you. And you're like, oh, he will save Harvey, And I tend to like villains that you feel like, man, if I could just reach them, then they wouldn't be what they are. I mean, I love the Joker for what he is, but the Joker is essentially like a Greek god of mischief and violence and chaos. There's no reaching the Joker, and that's kind of what makes him fascinating. Is the purity of who the Joker is. I don't have a plan. Like all that. Like that's great, but when it comes to my emotional stuff, I think Harvey is just he's like the tragic story, inside of Gotham. And then in terms of Spider-Man villains, I'm still kind of a Green Goblin guy. There's something just kind of archetypal about the sled versus the spider that's really hard to top. There's something really hard to top about that. And even the classic Green Goblin design, it just has power. I mean, some designs just have an innate strength, and that Goblin, flying around throwing pumpkins at Spider-Man, to me that is the quintessential Spider-Man villain.
The Hobgoblin was always mine because, that was the big kind of mystery when I started, because Green Goblin was dead when I was reading Spider-Man comics, right?
Right.
And I always liked, as we've kind of established, always kind of like dug the horror stuff. So I always loved the Halloween design, that kind of mystery of who was the Hobgoblin. And there's just something about like a lot of Spider-Man's, best villains are kind of like, it's the power and responsibility axiom where it's all power, no responsibility. And I always
totally, yeah.
Yeah, that was always.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, that was always it. That was always the quality there.
Yeah, Hobgoblin's great. I also remember having a pretty harrowing experience reading Kraven's Last Hunt.
Oh yeah.
I am good enough. I am the hunter. Like what? What is this? And I was like, whoa! He buried Spider-Man in a coffin like the Undertaker.
It's a horror book with Spider-Man in it.
Yeah, it's totally. It's totally. So that one kind of rocked me. I had a pitch with Sony on about a movie a long time ago, and before this Colonel with Tom Hardy, and I waxed poetically about Kraven in The Office because I just think he's kind of an awesome guy too. But again, I don't see Kraven as really a villain as much as an antagonist. He's sort of like Boba Fett. It feels like you could kind of get Kraven to hunt somebody else if you just paid him more money or gave him more of a challenge or something. But like Hobgoblin, Green Goblin, like those guys are bad guys.
So, you had mentioned the Truman Capote influence when crafting Postal. Was that idea of creating an entire like idyllic town filled with, for lack of a better term, villains? Was that just something like all these dudes have their own kind of like tragic backstories, their own kind of tragic origins that wound them up here in this town?
Yeah, I grew up in Missouri. I grew up in St. Louis. So St. Louis is a kind of a big city in a state full of small towns. But I have a lot of family outside of St. Louis, and they live in like these little small towns, where there's maybe 5 or 6 police officers. You know everybody's name, and everything kind of stays within the community of that town. So for Postal, I could access some of that experience that I had, the way that, the towns are like little countries, and they're kind of anti-federalist in all the ways, like intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, all that stuff. So, I don't have a lot of stories that I get asked to tell where I can draw on that particular experience, and I probably wouldn't have on my own, because most of my work tends to be more kinetic and more like kind of, arch genre sort of stuff. So Postal was a opportunity for me to uncover some of those old emotions and feelings and put those into a story. So a lot of those people in the book are based on people I know. Oh, wow. Like the former white supremacist that's in the book is based on a guy I know that used to be a white supremacist who changed, still had the tattoos, so it was hard for him to get work anywhere. Sure. But he kind of found his way in a place that wouldn't judge him so much. And he was this sturdy, kind of scarily intense, but genuinely wanted to be good kind of fella. And so I immortalized him a little bit in the comics. So yeah, it's just certain things let you access different parts of your life experience, and that was a book where I could open a door in my heart that I hadn't opened for a story before, and kind of let all that stuff come out.
So to carry that metaphor to what what door in your heart does Aphrodite 5 open other than the love letter to Jim Cameron? Because I can call him Jim. We're like on that basis, but like Jim Cameron and Tony Scott.
Yeah.
What?
Well, you know, when Jimmy talks about you, he always says nice stuff.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I'm still waiting for that Avatar. Am I waiting for Avatar 2? Is anybody waiting for Avatar 2?
No.
Okay.
I would be that dude. But see, I was that dude before the first Avatar, and I was clearly wrong. So I'm going to shut up and let it come out, because I'm not going to make the same mistake twice. Because I was like, man, this just looks like some Halo without Master Chief in it. Man, blue people, this just some dances with the blue wolves. Man. And that thing made like all the money. So when it comes to being able to predict the box office performance of something or the people's interest in it, don't listen to me. Don't listen. I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's totally what's going to happen, right? It's like, because everyone's like, oh yeah, Avatar 2, 3, 4, and then it's going to come out, blow everyone's mind, make $1 squillion. I'm psyched that he's doing that he's going back into the Terminator world with Tim Miller. That's something I'm excited about.
And I think Linda Hamilton's involved in that somehow, which is good. Because I'm a firm believer that Terminator is the story of Sarah Connor, not John Connor. And, you know, with Terminator without Sarah Connor, I don't really understand what that is, really. So even if she has like a reduced role and it's like a baton pass, that's fine. You can move it on to another protagonist. But I do feel like you have to have that generational switch in the story. Otherwise, I don't know really what I'm watching.
There's a really great video on YouTube. You might have already seen it. I don't know. But it's I stumbled across it just down a rabbit hole one night. I think it's like the Hollywood Reporter. It's like a 45-minute conversation that James Cameron and Tim Miller have about.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Occasionally, James Cameron would just show up for an hour and just talk on stuff.
Yeah,
you know, like you'll be like, you know, on your Xbox, you're getting ready to play State of Decay 2 or something. You're like, I'm gonna pop on YouTube, and it's like 90 minutes of James Cameron talking to you.
Yeah,
and you're like, I guess that's how multi-billionaires vlog.
Yeah,
they. You know, they just get like real camera crews when they want to put a vlog out, I suppose. But to answer your question with Aphrodite, you know, to me, Aphrodite is a story about people that are trying to live according to a fairly strict moral code in a world full of half measures and compromises. And that speaks to like the Michael Mann, you know, Sergio Leone, Akira Kurosawa part of me. I've always been a huge fan of stories of like the warrior culture that they're dying out. They're an endangered species in a world full of politicians. You know,
right?
You know, like we don't need cowboys like you anymore. This town has order, right?
Yeah.
Like those sorts of stories. You know, the Last Samurai. You know, in the place who's being swallowed up by gunpowder and gold. So Aphrodite is part and kind of parcel of that. And I bring up Michael Mann because Mann, he does stories like that in the modern day. I mean, his movies are ostensibly about cops and robbers, but they're really about like, you know, classic outlaws and people out of step with the compromise of the times and how being out of step with the compromise of the times makes you a target from all sides, right? Like, how do you maintain honor in a code in a world that may not have it? And so the story to Aphrodite is something similar. I mean, you've got this young billionaire at the center of the story who's trying to take his father's somewhat grimy legacy and make it better. And part of what he wants to do is privatize the police force and put it under him, right? Kind of like an OCP nod, right? A little bit of that. Except he's not, you know, an evil guy like Dick Jones.
Dick
but
Jones.
You know, he's still Dick Jones. It was Dick Jones.
I work for
Dick Jones was the cops.
Remember that scene?
You're a cop.
Yeah, you're a cop.
Yes,
Yeah.
I am a cop.
Yeah. Dick, you're fired. Thank you.
Yeah, I love how Peter Weller like throws that away. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna shoot this motherfucker out of a building.
You know,
it's amazing. So yeah, so like it's full of like those ideas, and Aphrodite crashes into this guy's world because she's also looking to not be anybody's weapon, not be anybody's tool, but she has no idea what to do with all the power she has. She doesn't know what to do if she's not a tool of cyber data. So she's on the run from the people that created her, but doesn't really have a destination, and crash lands into this Los Angeles 5 minutes in the future that's in a state of crisis. And some people don't recognize who they are until they find a crisis, right? They need a war to know they're a soldier. So, she's going through this, but she doesn't have any investment in politics, any investment in niceties. Like, if there's a problem, this is the problem to solve. I'm going to solve it, and I don't really care what happens along the way. So that story's born, in a lot of those feelings. A lot of ways, I've always felt a bit like a person out of step with society, in many ways. I feel like I might have an antiquated code, but it makes sense to me. Right. I'm still kind of like you got to get out of here in 30 seconds or less. You see the heat coming around the corner. Like, I'm still kind of that dude. So it's about some of those emotions and those feelings, and how this cast of somewhat misfit characters comes together, realizing that they have a lot of things that are different about them, but the common denominator they has is that they want to stop this evil that is threatening the city, and they're going to have to break a bunch of rules to do it.
So it's kind of the idea of what does a Ronin do when the Bushido no longer exists, or to tie it back.
Absolutely.
To tie it back to Michael Mann, like you were saying.
Yeah. It's like, when you think about Ronin and the masterless samurai, and when there's no Daimyo, there's no warlord, and all of that culture you carry within yourself, and it kind of dies when you die, and that's sort of the only thing that might keep you around a little bit. Yeah, so it's like that kind of stuff.
Well, you had invoked Michael Mann, and there's that great scene in like the diner in Heat where he's just like, "That's the discipline,"
If it's between you and some poor bastard whose wife you're gonna make a widow, brother, I will put you down.
Well, there's a flip side to that coin. Yeah. I've seen your face. But if you get in my way, I will not hesitate. Not for a second.
That's the best. That movie's so fucking good, man.
Yeah, that is the only appropriate response.
It's so good.
To the mention of Heat.
Oh,
that
Jesus.
movie. It's fucking good, man.
It's crazy the amount of things.
It makes you. Whew, this movie is good.
Yeah. I'm sweating after I watch that movie.
Yeah, you watch it and you gotta lay down for a second, like, my wife would be like, "What's baby? I just watch Heat." Oh, she's like, "Okay,
give me a minute."
I get it. Yeah, I just need a minute here. I'm gonna go look at the ocean for a second and listen to some Phil Collins or some shit. I'll be all right.
Man, I gotta watch Heat again. It's been a while.
Yeah, what the fuck is ball games, barbecues,
barbecues and ball games? Your life?
What is that?
What is
it's like I will randomly break out Michael Mann-isms in real conversation, and people will have no idea what I'm talking about. But the magic that happens when somebody does. It's so worth it. So worth it.
I would be remiss if, while talking about Michael Mann, I didn't bring up The Keep. To stun silence. Sure.
The Keep. It's such a weird movie, The Keep.
I love that you know what I'm talking about, because it's one of those things.
Jürgen Prochnow now, Alberta Watson, Scott Glenn as like the Wanderer or something. I am he who has traveled before. Like,
we have found the fourth member of the podcast.
I literally don't know what that movie's about, and I've seen it 5 times.
I've seen it. I've read the book. I still don't know what it's about. But
it's amazing. Sometimes filmmakers, they got something in their mind, man. They put it out.
Well, apparently, like the quote unquote director's cut of it is like 5 hours long, and he said he would never release it because of just like the shit that he went through trying to edit it down to be released. He's like, fuck it, I never want to touch this movie again. But
also, you and I are going to have to show up with hockey masks and AK-47s and just take that thing.
Basically, with my copy of it on Laserdisc, because I still want to get it signed. Laserdisc is the only physical medium that it was ever put out on for home video. It has since resurfaced on like digital.
If you're not standing up to flip your movie, you ain't watching your movie.
Right? Except I have a Laserdisc player with lasers on both sides, so I don't need to do that. But I get what you're saying.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. See, I never had the late model joint. I always had the one where you're like, oh, man. Godfather, huh?
It's all right.
Okay.
It's all right. It's all right. My Star Wars, a bunch of my movies are still like CAV quality, so I still have to switch discs because they're so long.
I think
these kids, they don't know how good they have it with your little Blu-rays, with your 4K.
You don't even have to get up to put a disc in a thing. You can just load it up on your computer. Ugh.
Yeah, listen here, man. You're not a film lover unless you wrestled with a tracking knob. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, tracking. I miss, but also don't miss fiddling with tracking.
I'm talking about taping things off of Cinemax, SLP. I got 3 movies on a tape, and they're in 25p.
Yeah.
But I'm watching them.
We have found the 4th member of Geek Out Show, gentlemen.
I'll come back anytime.
Yes. So, Brian, one last question that we ask every person that crosses our particular brand of iTunes madness.
Yes, sir.
What are you currently geeking out over?
Oh, man, what am I currently geeking out over? That's a very good question. You know, I create so many things, man. I don't get to consume all that much. I mean, like, I mentioned that group, The Midnight, before. Like, that is, I know music might not be what you're referring to.
Oh, no, it's anything. Anything.
Music is such a huge creative driver for me. Because because I work on so many different things, I got to make separate playlists for everything that I work. So when I, stop working on one thing and start something else, I can just put on, like, Hans Zimmer's Batman Begins soundtrack and get right back into the zone I need to get into. So last night I was listening to a bunch of retrowave on YouTube. They got these great like retrowave channels. You can just put them on, and they'll just have like a kind of a grab bag of artists out there. And this one group, man, Midnight, came on. I think the song was called like Shadows, and it had some line about, I'm in the shadow of the city, which is clearly something that speaks to my heart because I belong to the city. I belong to the night. So I was listening to it, and I just got really into it, and I started listening to all their music and jotting down some ideas and kind of dragged out this old script that I've been working on that I couldn't quite crack, and the music kind of cracked it for me. So I strongly suggest if anyone listening to this is into 80s music at all, if you like that kind of Miami Vice sort of feel, that kind of brooding hero cop soundtrack stuff, then check out The Midnight. I know they're on Spotify. And I literally like them so much that this morning I bought the T-shirt.
Oh wow! If you're kind of listening to like 80s kind of retro, listen to there's an album called like Miami Nights 1984 by Turbulence. Yeah. That one's fantastic for just kind of
that one is equally dope. So yeah, I mean I think that's the last thing that I like super geeked out on. Was that band, really.
Real quick, it took me a minute to look it up to confirm certain names, but earlier you were talking about having lunch with Alan Howarth?
Yes.
Yeah. Since you were talking music stuff with him, did you guys talk about his work with the Coupe de Villes?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, a little bit, man. Are they the ones credited with Big Trouble in Little China?
Yes.
Did they? Yeah. Big Trouble
in Little China.
Yeah, we talked about that too, man. Like, we went through the whole... See, he didn't realize how deep I go when we first sat down. He was like, oh, this guy, he likes Halloween. Yeah. Everyone likes Halloween. Enjoy your spinach. Right?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, we're not going to talk about Halloween, man. We got to talk about some Big Trouble in Little China. And he was like, what? But before we talk about Big Trouble in Little China, we need to talk about some Halloween 3. Because we need to talk about that. And that's when he realized that I was really into his library, and he just gave up the goods on all of it, man. He's a really awesome guy. I don't know if he's still teaching in Orange County or not, but I can't say enough good things about Alan.
I always get really excited when I get to impart the knowledge that technically Big Trouble in Little China, it's the song is not performed, quote unquote, by John Carpenter, but it's by his band, the Coupe de Villes, because so few people know that he had a quote unquote band.
Yeah, you gotta run into the mystic night. Yeah, man, that's it.
I'm listening to that on the drive home.
Do it.
Yeah.
That's the jam, man. Wait, listen, when old Jack Burton is driving home from finishing his podcast and he's been laughing about RoboCop, let me just tell you, man, the check is in the mail.
If I remember correctly, I don't remember which songs or if it's for other movies other than Big Trouble in Little China, but they do have multiple song credits to their name. It's not just
it's a whole thing, man. Like Carpenter is an interesting cat, man. He's an interesting dude. I tried about 3 years ago to get him involved on a project, and he was a really accommodating guy. It's not that difficult to get to John because John's just kind of this dude in LA, and he was writing some music at the time, music that subsequently he's released recently. And he's pretty chill. He was just like, yeah, man, you get me some bucks and then we can go ahead and do it. And so I spent the rest, literally that's how we said it, get him some bucks.
Deer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I don't really speak early 70s, but okay.
Josh Williamson has a John Carpenter story. Next time you see Josh Williamson.
Oh, really? Oh, I'm totally going to bother him about it as soon as this podcast is over.
Yeah. But I think
Josh just gave me his number.
Yeah.
Recently, he's like, "Hey man, if you have any questions, you want to talk about the thing?" I'm like, "Yeah, questions, DC Comics, yeah." So, what's this John Carpenter story, Brad?
Just to give him a frame of reference, it happened at a San Diego Comic-Con many moons ago, and then I think that's all the prompt that Josh will need to carry them.
Conventions are the best because sometimes the way the real estate works, you wind up sitting next to awesome people that have tons of downtime. The last time I was in Long Beach. I was at the Top Cow booth at Long Beach Comic-Con, and Lance Henriksen was right next to me. So I got 3 hours of Lance Henriksen stuff.
Nice.
I mean, we talked Millennium. We talked Damien the Omen 2. Yeah, he's in that. We talked a bunch of stuff, man. And he was like Alan Howard. He was like, how do you know so much about my career?
I don't even know this much about my career.
He said something to that effect. He's like, I just wrote a book, but you should have written the book. I'm like, you didn't ask me, Lance. I would have totally written that book for you. So I totally get the Comic-Cons are surreal places. That's why they're worth the price of admission because, Thursday, it's kind of professional, and Friday, it's kind of, by Saturday afternoon, you're playing poker with Henry Cavill and Kelly Hu, and it's just happening, because everyone's just that never happened. But things like that can happen. I bumped into Henry Cavill once. He has a very firm shoulder. I wouldn't get in his wrong side. But yeah, man, I love conventions for that energy, for the kind of crazy. Yeah, we're all in here, man. We're locked in here, so I guess we're all buddies.
Yeah. You're not locked. I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me.
Yeah. Scream that over the PA system. Yeah.
I'm coming here to kick ass and shoot bullets.
I'm missing San Diego this year. That kind of bums me out because that's always my favorite.
I'll be there, I think, one day. Probably Saturday I'll be there, but I won't be there the entire time. I'll
be at New York in October, but yeah, I'm missing San Diego this year.
I thought, I think it was at New York Comic Con. I thought I ran into Paul Stanley once because Kiss.
No, it was San Diego.
Was it San Diego? Okay, so Kiss was there.
Promoting Kiss Meets Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, so it was this and I'm a huge Kiss nerd, and so they had behind the tent you couldn't see anybody, and there was a line, an insane line, and I was like, well, I'll get in the back of it and see what happens, and I get in the back of the line, they're like, you can't just get in line, it's a huge big thing, blah blah blah. Have a ticket and sell your firstborn and blood and all that kind of stuff.
Oh right, yeah.
Contribute blood to a comic book.
Yeah, prove you bought every single Kiss CD at least twice. And so I was like,
have a Kiss podcast.
Yeah, I was like, I have a Kiss podcast, but I don't. Oh, damn it. So, do you guys want to be on my Kiss podcast? And so I
get out of here, nerd.
Yeah, and so I'm walking, I'm walking by the booth, and this curtain opens, and out walks
Star Child.
Dynasty era Star Child. And I went, oh! Wow. And I was like, oh, fuck! Why is he the only one dressed up? Yeah, I was like, why is he the only one?
Well.
Yeah, I was like, why is he the only one dressed up? But it doesn't matter. And so I didn't do anything. I just walked next to him, and I was like, oh, fuck. My heart was racing, and I was like, good enough for me. I didn't say anything. I just bolted. I fucking ran out of there. I was like, holy shit. I breathed the same air as Paul Stanley. Here's the funny thing.
Yeah, sometimes that's just enough. Sometimes just being in the proximity is enough, and then you have to skedaddle before you really.
Oh yeah, because I would have been like music from the Elder. And so then I like bolted out of there, and then Kiss left. The sad thing is, the next day, that same Paul Stanley is sitting at the top of the booth. They hired a fake Paul Stanley to walk around, but he was like in all of his shit. So I thought it was real Paul Stanley. It was fucking Fall Stanley, and so I was
man.
yeah, I was like,
You got
at the same
trapped by Faker Stanley.
yeah. At the same time, I was like,
arch nemesis.
I was like, that's classic Kiss though to do that, to have like
Doppelganger
yeah, and they just hired some.
It was Ted DiBiase's
Yeah.
Paul Stanley.
Yeah. Yeah. They hired some poor bastard to stand up there and be like,
fake
you,
fake
you?
Shemp Stanley.
Oh yeah, Paul Stanley, San Diego, yeah. And I was like, oh man, I fell for it. But for like a tiny moment, I thought I bumped into Paul
You guys
Stanley.
want some chest hairs?
Yeah.
Well, if you were in like an '80s movie, then you would have gone back in there, and the real Paul Stanley would have been like in makeup, and you'd have been like, "You're just a fake Paul Stanley."
Yeah, fuck you, Paul
can
Stanley.
prove it."
Yeah. Exactly.
And then you would grab him, and everyone would be like, "Oh my God, he grabbed Paul Stanley!" And wow.
Yeah, then RoboCop would have saved my life. Because it's an 80s movie.
Let Paul Stanley go.
Or RoboCop would have shot your dick off.
Yeah, he would have shot my dick. Yeah. Do not touch Paul Stanley.
Remember the days when everyone felt fine about the hero of the movie just shooting people in the genitals?
Yeah. He shoots. Well, the funny thing is, the first thing he does as RoboCop is punch a guy through a fucking like cooler, or like a soda thing, whatever the fuck. I can't think of the word.
yeah.
Machine.
Machine.
Refrigerator.
A refrigerator, and then he doesn't arrest him. He just leaves. Like he leaves the guy knocked out and destroys all.
Nothing to arrest.
Yeah, he just punches them and he's like, "Thank you for your cooperation," and then leaves and is like on patrol.
RoboCop just walking around murking fools.
Yeah, goes into that one guy in the mayor's office, punches him out the window, and he's like, "Good," and then goes on to like other things. He doesn't arrest anybody.
Good.
He doesn't arrest anybody in the movie. He's just punching people left and right. But hey, it's not a badge and a pair of handcuffs that comes out of his leg, man. That's true.
RoboCop, his intentions are pretty clear.
yeah, he'll shoot you in the dick and then punch you in the face. One of my favorite things, though.
Isn't the moon lovely?
Yeah. Oh god.
I want that to be the tagline of a
Can
RoboCop
that go
comic.
on my grave?
Yeah. He'll punch you in the
Paralyzed
dick.
Bryan Hill, who shoots you in the dick and punch you in the.
Yeah. If you break the law and if you're not an OCP employee, you're fucked.
That's true. Yeah.
But one of my favorite things, just real quick, like symmetry with RoboCop and Batman, is in original RoboCop in the mayor's office, and the guy's like, I want to thank for shitty gas mileage, blah. And he like punches through with both hands and then pulls the guy through the wall.
Yeah.
One of the great things is fucking years later, Peter Weller voices Batman in The Dark Knight Returns and does the exact same thing when like those punks steal the kid.
Oh,
and
totally.
It's like it's perfect.
And then Ben
Well,
Affleck did it in
there's a
Batman
synergy,
vs Superman.
right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
Frank Miller did writing for RoboCop 2.
yeah.
And so you can see like the kind of conversation that happens between Dark Knight Returns, RoboCop 2, Miller's work. Like it's all kind of. I think Ed Neumeier was the writer of RoboCop.
Yeah, the original.
And he's mentioned Frank Miller's work, in some interviews. Man, I think he's doing something new with RoboCop.
Yeah,
I heard
they're making
Neumeier was developing something.
Yeah, they're doing like a sequel. Because
man.
That's freaking awesome.
You better get Weller in there. He can still be RoboCop. I've seen him. He's still skinny. He can fit in that suit.
That's right. Put him in the suit and let him
Still
go
got the
nuts.
same voice.
Yeah.
I saw Psych.
Yeah, I mean, all you need is like the chin. He got the chin. The chin is still there. Hashtag bring Weller back.
That's right. Do it.
So
I did a terrible job of promoting my comic book, didn't I?
we mention it for like 10 to 15 minutes from this hour-long conversation.
It's part of it.
Yeah.
Look, go buy it.
Yeah.
Aphrodite V. It's awesome. Go buy it.
And before
Don't buy it for $1. Yeah. That one was free. I just gave.
It was all leading to that. It was good.
Before we return you to the wilds of the City of Angels, Brian, do you have anything else that
Yes.
you'd like to plug other than Aphrodite 5?
Oh, let's see. I got Aphrodite V, Detective. We talked about that. Cyberforce. We also talked about that. No, I mean, I've got other stuff that I'm doing, but I am not allowed to talk about it yet. So maybe when I start making some announcements for some other things, I can hop back on and we can talk about that stuff.
Yeah, and we can talk about, like Collateral and Last of the Mohicans, as well. And I'm trying to think.
Hey, man, stay alive. No matter what occurs, I will find you.
I'm sure we could throw in like Total Recall and The Running Man too.
Yeah.
It's all the same way.
No.
Starship Troopers.
Hey, look, like Damon does not get enough love as movie villain. That's all I'm saying. Like Richard Dawson was a national treasure. we need to erect a monument in his name. Richard Dawson, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
And The Running Man has my favorite terrible Schwarzenegger line of all time. It's the one after he kills Sub-Zero.
Oh, yeah.
Here's your Sub-Zero. Now, Plain Zero.
I was always a fan of, I'll live to see you eat that contract, but I hope you leave enough room for my fist because I'm going to ram it into your stomach and break your goddamn spine.
I mean, it's like just everyone just wait for him to finish the line, right?
Yeah.
All right, action. Yeah, I don't know, man. Just look at the wall and let Arnold finish this. Come on, The Coke's coming in 2 hours. Might as well shoot it.
That was something that was written by Stephen fucking King, too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sort of. The book was written by Stephen
By
King.
Richard Bachman.
But the script had like nothing to do with it.
Hey, the 80s, man.
Yeah.
The 80s. In the 80s, like, the script, that was just a suggestion. It's kind of about this. It's, it's whatever.
It's like a Kristen Wiig movie.
It's all about how Kristen Wiig just gets bodied out of nowhere. She's sitting somewhere, just minding her own business. She's trying to read the book, and then suddenly she has this head pain from the sniper shot from the podcast.
Maybe I won't be the villain for the next Wonder Woman movie.
Yeah. That's the reason why not.
if it is, I'll feel very...
Man, you were right on track, brother. You were right there, and you just fucked it up.
But, Brian, thanks again for coming on the show. And again, Aphrodite V out in comic book stores everywhere on Wednesday, July 18th. In addition to literally everything else we talked, Hong Kong Phooey, Black Lightning, Detective Comics, Ultimate Spider-Man, Postal, Cyberforce,
the Coupe de Villes.
The Coupe de Villes.
The Coupe de Villes.
Available on Apple Music and Spotify.
Available on Apple Music.
I hope so.
Thanks, fellas. It was great to be here, man. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Yep. What an action-packed, lovely interview that was.
Oh, yeah. That was awesome. A lot of fun.
Very exciting.
And I just want to point out, and I pointed it out as much in the interview, but it bears repeating. We were not the ones that initiated the RoboCop, Batman 89, or what other geek out mainstays were brought in?
You mentioned Dirty Harry. We'll have to talk about that another time.
I believe he was the one that mentioned Halloween.
He mentioned Frank Miller.
Heat. Yeah.
Yeah, that was so much fun, man. That was like all of our favorite things.
These are a few of our favorite things. Whose favorite thing is actually brown paper packages tied up in string?
I mean, I like getting packages in the mail.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to be tied up in string, but I like getting gifts, and like gifts in the mail is fun. You know, Amazon packages. I guess instead of string, it's Amazon tape.
So yeah, but yeah, thanks again to Bryan Edward Hill for coming on our program. We've all seen a film since the last recording session.
I was like, what have we seen? Oh, yeah.
The three of us together as a triumvirate, which we haven't done for... No, we did it for Deadpool 2.
But this was the first time that was just the three of us in quite a while.
Classic lineup. A true geek outing. Solo, a Star Wars story.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Gentlemen, what do you think?
Mm-hmm. I had a lot of fun with it. That's the word that gets thrown around like in every review I've read is a lot of fun because it is.
Ron Howard's fun atmosphere shines through. Very
romp.
I think we all
very romp.
I think we all kind of agree that that first act is kind of a bit of a
A shaky.
Yeah. You can get on the mic, you motherfucker.
No, he's going to be in the back row.
You can join the conversation.
You were there too.
I was. It's a bit of a shaky start. I'm not the biggest fan of the ending either because there isn't much of an ending.
Well, they're very much anticipating. They want to do a trilogy, obviously. You know, this movie does.
He signed for 3.
Yeah, it's not. He's not Han Solo by the end of the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's still a bit of a ways to go. Got to earn that vest, but
He does. Spoilers, shoot first.
yeah, that didn't even cross my radar. I was like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
like, yeah, I get it.
because that's the character. It doesn't need to be a thing.
yeah,
George Lucas made it a thing
yeah.
in 1997.
But yeah, that decision can legally drink.
Yeah. Oh.
Oh. But
And it should.
you get a lot of the moments. We talked earlier off mic at dinner about like how much restraint this movie had, which was kind of amazing. But because you're thinking you're gonna get Jabba, you're gonna get Boba Fett, you're gonna be on Tatooine, you're gonna, yeah.
They do mention the huts
Sure. I mean, they
and Tatooine.
and they set
But
things up,
they
but
don't go
again,
there.
the restraint.
Yeah, I appreciated it.
Yeah. I was really happy with Alden Ehrenreich's. That's how you say his name, right?
Ehrenreich, yeah.
Ehrenreich's. His performance was great. I think that was kind of like the thing going into it. Everyone was like, it's not just Han Solo. I mean, Harrison Ford's playing him for so long, and he's so ingrained in our freaking DNA as that character. So, very early on, I wasn't going, this guy is trying to be Han Solo. I was like, that's Han Solo.
Yeah.
And that's huge.
I believed that a man could fly a spaceship.
Yep. I really liked Chewbacca. I obviously it's the biggest role he's had in a movie.
Yeah.
Some really sweet moments in there. I was telling Chris afterwards because we carpooled that each of these Star Wars movies, wherever varying degrees of how much I loved it or was just okay or whatever, in this new era, each one has had a moment that's like totally like hit me in the heart. Like it's just super emotional thing, and a lot of that has to do with loving Star Wars as a kid. With Force Awakens is kind of the funniest one. There's 2, but in that opening crawl when it says Skywalker and like you're reading along, and I read Skywalker on the big screen again, I got emotional just reading Skywalker. And then in the end, Chewbacca roaring at Han Solo's death, and then seeing him in the cockpit by himself. In Rogue One, seeing Darth Vader kill people, I got super emotional. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I was like seeing Rambo in the 50 cal. I got emotional during that scene too. And then in Last Jedi, the help me Obi-Wan Kenobi R2 playing the old.
Yeah.
That was so fucking well done. And then also I like when Luke winks at C-3PO. I was like, yeah, I like that. That's very good.
Yeah.
That's very good. I like that very much. And then this one,
Yoda making you gasp like a dickhead.
yeah. That was his little floppy ear showed up, and I went, "Oh,
Is that how a dickhead gasps?
it's fucking Yoda!" I stood up. I was like, "Yoda, no."
And everyone was like, "Get down!"
Yeah. I was like, "Yeah, you guys say that. Should have been Anakin, but you say that."
It would have made more sense.
Yeah, I would have cried.
Actually,
I would have wept. But I got emotional with that too. No, but in this one, I got really like it almost broke the fucking plane. Was when Han and Chewie are in the cockpit for the first time. They play the theme, and it's like this is it. Like we're seeing all these big moments, and that was out of all the moments we get to see. We get to see him win the Millennium Falcon. We get to see him meet Chewie for the first time. We get to see him meet Lando for the first time. All these like moments, the Kessel Run. But that was the moment. Because that is iconic.
The Kessel Run is really central to the whole thing.
I liked the way that they pulled off the Kessel Run. Like, because I had never like read whichever's story the Kessel Run is featured in the expanded universe, and technically whatever. Now it doesn't matter because they can do make up whatever they want. But like that was essentially the general idea of my understanding of what the Kessel Run was.
Yep.
And I really like how they executed it in the movie.
Yeah. And when you get the whole team together, it was so much fucking fun and awesome. And I loved L3, the droid, a lot. And she ends up playing like a pretty central thing. Like she pretty much becomes a consciousness of the Millennium Falcon, which is crazy.
I want to say that's the line later in the series when C-3PO is like, I don't know where your ship learned manners or whatever the line is. Like I in my headcanon, and it probably is true, like I want that to be like, oh, that's because it's L3 and L3 is a strong independent robot woman.
Yeah. I loved it.
Who don't need no hand.
That's right.
I'll walk away now.
But
I'm always fascinated how those wavelengths look.
yeah.
It's fun to watch.
I will say, we'll bring it down a little bit, and bring it back down to reality for a second. Not a huge fan of how he gets his last name, and it wasn't.
Oh my god!
And look, even if that was how it is, it held on for way too long, and like the Imperial guy wouldn't give a fuck. Like he doesn't know he's doing this big thing.
Well, and he wouldn't like announce it for basically winking at the audience.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Solo.
He'd be like, whatever your fucking name is. He's like, I don't have it, people. Okay, so you're by yourself, Solo. Han Solo, go.
Yeah.
Like it shouldn't have been a thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
just dismissive.
Okay, as an audience, we're like, oh yeah, okay, that's how he gets his name. But the Imperial guy wouldn't. He's not like. He's like. And then, Sonny, I was the one that gave that smuggler his name. To
the whole
children of Imperial fucks.
If anything, the hold should have been on Han's reaction to getting that. And him just being like, yeah, that sounds good. And like just kind of like, yeah. But not like the guy going,
Yeah. I would have liked, the sense of urgency. Han by himself, Han single,
Han solitary,
Han
one man,
Samsonite, Han Samson. But I mean, like I would have said there's urgency. Like there's a line, and people go, move. This, I do this. And they could have even set it up like people joining the Imperial forces there, the Empire, or maybe about a lot of runaways. So they're going, you are boom name, you are boom,
and maybe like there's a million named Solo. It's the new Smith.
Oh yeah. There's a bunch of Solos.
All right, you're Jeff Solo. You're Trinity Solo.
That would have been fucking hilarious.
Solo.
That would have been fucking hilarious. Like all these Solos. He's like Han Solo, not bad. He's like, what's your name? He's like Jeff Solo.
He's just in like a ship that's just full of all the Solos over here.
Yeah,
they organize them alphabetical by last name.
Yeah,
so.
He's like, oh shit. Something I liked that I thought was kind of a nice touch is that his dad built basically Millennium Falcons.
Yeah,
he's got that sentimentality.
I'm glad
to
that they didn't shoehorn in that like he built that Millennium.
Exactly.
If that would have been a little too Rogue One.
If you wanted to be that, fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like the idea that's something
he knows
like
it's a Corellian cruiser.
Yeah,
exactly.
He feels that kind of connection to it.
Yeah,
which I liked. What else? As much as I love Darth Vader, I was so glad that when they have the Star Destroyer show up for the Kessel Run, they don't cut inside and fucking Vader's in there. He's like, I'm attached to all these goddamn motherfuckers.
I'm glad they didn't cut inside at all.
Oh yeah, seriously. Yeah. I mean, there's very little. I mean, one of the things I really liked about Rogue One, and they do it in this as well. And my dream movie, like for like these one-off Star Wars stories, these Star Wars stories, is a movie about the stormtroopers, like All Quiet on the Western Front, but stormtroopers. I love seeing the world of Star Wars just exist and the stormtroopers just be there. You know what I mean? Like they're like this kind of really like
they're part of the environment.
They're part of the environment. So like they're in Rogue One, it's done really well. Like when they're in the streets and everyone's kind of afraid of them and they're walking around like, hey, who are you? And in this one, they're not as much in it. Like the OG classic ones. I mean, they're there, but like. In the beginning, if I remember correctly, like when they're walking through and they're trying to escape in the beginning, like they're there.
The terminal,
like they're
remember when the Imperial pilot gets turned into an Iceman?
In
Solo?
Remind me, I don't know.
So during the pursuit, where the fucking like very intimidating Star Destroyer starts to approach Kessel, and they're like, "Well, they won't." I used to be a pilot. They won't send pilots, and they send pilots. And
the ties, yeah.
Yeah, and
okay, yeah.
Yeah, he does the maneuver where he uses the landing gear to create a skid, which breaks open the cockpit.
Yeah,
and it just like in an instant, the pilot just freezes.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was cool. Yeah.
I was thinking of like there was a moment where the guy just standing there like hi, and then like somebody gets shot. He's like, no.
I thought you literally meant that he turned into like Icemonger or whatever it was.
I was actually really shocked that I had heard going before seeing that there was a big surprise of someone being in it. I thought it was going to be like a Boba Fett thing, because Han and Boba Fett they know each other. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's something how early those seeds are sown. I thought maybe would have been kind of a thing, but instead we get Darth Maul,
which Ray Park.
Yes.
I was super excited, and I think
our
Ray
friend,
Park does
our
the
friend,
voice.
Our friend Ray Park,
friend of us.
I'm a little upset he didn't tell us that he was doing this cameo
years
ago, and we saw it
before they even announced a Han Solo movie.
Sam Witwer does the voice who voiced him on Clone Wars.
Yep.
So which means not the guy from Episode 1.
Peter,
who's too busy not being in any more of the Marvel movies because he died.
Yeah.
Much to my chagrin, because I really like him.
Yeah.
So, hat tip to you, Peter.
It starts with an S.
Yeah, but it's not Skarsgård.
No.
Very good. No, it's not.
I know how to spell it. I just don't know how to pronounce it.
That's impressive.
You know more than I do.
That's impressive.
I knew that it started with an S.
It's not that I don't know it. I just can't pronounce it.
Yeah.
Slippy, slappy.
He was also on Spaced.
And Shaun of the Dead.
That's right. What else about this film?
I will say, like we were saying, we it has a bit of a shaky first act, but like once he teams up with Chewbacca, and even more so once he teams up with Lando. Which,
that was so great when they were like, I know a pilot. I was like, fuck yeah.
I was nothing but smiles for the rest of the movie.
Basically, right after the train heist, I'm like, I'm in forever.
Because
after Monkey Man Jon Favreau dies, I'm in for the rest of the movie.
Well, he has that line about like not dying alone or whatever, and it immediately made me think of Han Solo's death.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh shit. I mean, he doesn't die alone. Obviously, he dies with his son in front of him. But it just made me think of like, we've seen this dude's life.
Yeah.
Once the train stuff's done and we start to get all of the team together and they go out and they meet L3 and they meet Lando and they get on the Falcon for the first time. Yeah, it was awesome.
And Donald Glover does a beautiful Lando. There's a couple scenes where I think those are like the first scenes that he shot where he's still like just kind of geeking out that he gets to be Lando, that he's really trying to do a Billy D. Williams and like it's real thick.
Yeah.
But like the rest of the movie, it's just smooth as Colt 45.
Dude, there's
works every time.
The moment
smooth as his silk capes.
The moment when I was like, "This is the coolest fucking movie I've ever seen." Which again, it's fun. It's I'm a little hyperbole here, but like the moment where they're under the Falcon and like the robot rebellion has taken place, they're all shooting at him, and Lando throws Han his blaster, and they're like basically back to back. Yeah, I was like, "Oh shit!"
It's the most Western of the Star Wars movies.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's straight up shots.
And
there's the Living Daylights poster shot. Basically, you're looking through fucking Han's legs at like people standing out there, and he's fiddling with his holster and
straight
stuff.
out of Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah, you're like, oh. Okay.
Fucking when L3 gets rocked during the Revolution, that hurt.
Oh yeah,
this is a character that I just got introduced to, but they did such a good job.
She's so
of
quick,
making
unfortunately. I was hoping she would at least lasted to like the end, you know what I mean? But yeah, it was real quick.
But she got to achieve her ultimate goal. She found her purpose in life.
Yeah,
to lead a robot revolution.
She did. Yeah.
Rock.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Oh, one of my favorite moments. I was talking to Sam about it. Because Episode 7 made me just realize how much I love Chewbacca. Like he's like my favorite fucking Star Wars character. Along with Vader. But he's dead, so who gives a shit? I mean, not in this movie. He's around there. He's kicking ass somewhere during this movie.
Sure.
One of the most beautiful moments, and it was so well done, and I'm so glad they nailed it because the Solo movie for me is, it's about Han, but it's so much about the Han-Chewie relationship, like forming for the first time. Is when Emilia Clarke's character, of course, she turns and she's flying away in her like ship that was a building. And Han's looking up at like the last remnants of his childhood, the love of his life. It's gone. Like Woody Harrelson, what he said was true. Everyone's going to betray you. And just when you think he's just fucking wrecked, Chewie's fucking furry arm comes out and puts his hand around his shoulder, and it's like, this is the one dude. Like, everyone else in that movie is going to betray you, and they do. Eventually, even fucking Lando does. The one guy who never will is fucking Chewbacca, and it's done without any dialogue. He just puts his arm around him. They kind of sit there, and it's just kind of like, if the movie would have ended there, it would have been fucking fine, because it's like, you know. But I really, oh shit! I really hope this gets like at least a second movie.
I want to see more. You know, as I feel like I'm the most. I still think it was a great, a good time at the movies.
Yeah.
Having said that, I think I'm probably the most, like, the least effusive of the three of us on it.
Gesundheit.
Yeah.
No problem. Didn't know you spoke German. And I want to see more adventures of Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo.
Hell yeah.
I mean, they see more Donald Glover as Lando Calrissian.
They set it up so well.
Yeah.
Why not, man?
I just don't need a Star Wars movie every year.
No. But
at least not every 5 months.
Well, you know,
wait until we start getting 5 Star Wars movies a year, like our Marvel movies.
Yeah.
Well, and we're about to get
TV series,
two TV series. Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing when episode 9 happens, what they're gonna do. Are they gonna jump right into 10? Or are they gonna do the Rian Johnson trilogy? What they're gonna do with that? If there's gonna be
Game of Thrones guys are working on their own trilogy too.
Oh, that's right. Damn.
Maybe just one a year tops, guys. Maybe.
We'll always be there, like the idiots we are.
We'll always.
But there's a lot of Star Wars, man. A lot of Star Wars.
Fine. Remember about a year ago, I was saying the same thing about the Marvel movies, and now I'm back in it. So.
I was that asshole too. At the beginning of the year, I was like, Infinity War. I don't know, man.
Dude,
I don't know. And then I sat in theaters and I was like, I've never been happier in my life.
When the first Deadpool movie came out, I was like, this is the last one. This is the last one that I'm excited about. And then that was the year the Civil War came out.
Yep.
And was that the first Ant-Man too, or
no, that was 2015? But Doctor Strange was
Doctor Strange, yeah. And I was I was starting to creep back in, and then now like I'm full on. I'm like back in it.
Yeah, it ebbs and flows because I seriously there's a moment on the podcast I was like, I don't know, guys, like.
I don't even know if I want to geek out about anything.
We'll see about whatever. And then like I remember told Sam I was sitting in the theater before Infinity War started with my brother and sister, and I was like, I've never been happier in my life than getting ready to watch this movie right now. I don't know what that says about me. I might be a sad motherfucker.
Both your brother and sister were like, what about that time that we got you that great present that you were like, this is the greatest thing I've ever got?
And
you're like, fuck that.
And I went, shut up. Infinity War's about to start.
Who cares about that time I met Mel Gibson?
Yeah, I've never been happier.
And he spoke in his Australian accent just for me. That'd be me, not you. I don't know about it.
I've never met him.
Yeah. And he drove Sean Crane's dad's Interceptor.
Yeah. I have ridden in that vehicle, which is pretty great around this neighborhood. So yeah, I mean, if I had to right now at this moment rate the 4 Star Wars movies just for shits and gigs, Solo would be second behind. What am I doing? Episode 7, Solo, Rogue One, Last Jedi. And none of them I'm like, fuck you.
Yeah, there's no new generation Star Wars movie I don't like.
Well, I mean, I don't like The Last Jedi, but I wouldn't say fuck you to Last Jedi.
You wouldn't kick it out of bed?
Yeah, I own it.
Thanks to Chris, really.
But then I got on the Disney Club, too.
Oh, you fucker!
Yeah, baby. Woo! Yeah, dumbass. I'm the guy keeping Disney in fucking money, man.
How are you?
Yeah, you're the one guy.
How are you still in the Disney Movies Club?
Did you get kicked out?
I
know that you've talked about the possibility of leaving. Like,
dude, I've talked about the possibility of leaving this show, and I'm still here. So
True.
I'm never leaving, man.
He does hate us.
I'm never leaving.
But we don't charge him $30 a month, and granted, we don't also give him one movie a month.
Yeah. Wait, why am I here? No, in all
because
seriousness,
you like yelling into a microphone.
For a lot of them, like it's true. For a lot of them, it's nice to just because I'm like, oh yeah, I would get Thor Ragnarok. Now I have Thor Ragnarok, and it's like, a lot of them are like Disney like family films, and I just give them like for my nieces for Christmas and birthday presents, stuff like that. Last Jedi was my own super fault, so I own that movie twice, and that's my least favorite Star Wars movie of the new generation. What does that say about me?
You could probably turn it into McKay's.
Probably
use it to get Mega Man 4. on the NES.
I probably wouldn't do that.
But you could.
I probably wouldn't do that.
You could get the Founder on Voodoo.
Mm-hmm.
It's on sale, I'm sure. 'Cause it's always on sale.
No.
Because no one in their right mind should buy it.
So, speaking of things on Voodoo, or more accurately, not on Voodoo,
Okay.
the first Halloween, the 1978 Halloween,
Yeah.
not on Voodoo.
Hmm.
Neither is Halloween 5. Or no, 4, Return of Mike Myers.
Mm-hmm.
But 5 is. The
Curse of
Mike Myers?
Curse of Mike Myers is there.
Yeah.
H2O's there. Resurrection's there. Rob Zombie 1 and 2, but only the unrated version of Rob Zombie 2 is there. Yeah. You know, I made this realization over the weekend. The only horror movie slasher I'm actually scared of, and have always been scared of, is Michael Myers. I've never been afraid of Freddy Krueger. I've never been afraid of Jason Voorhees, Leatherface.
Have you ever had a Freddy Krueger nightmare?
No.
I haven't either. Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why he's the only one that does scare me.
Yeah. The end.
He exists in dreams.
Because I have no control over my dreams. I am not like not Lori. That's
Nancy?
Halloween. Nancy, thank you. He's my favorite slasher. Why can't I? Yes, I'm not like Nancy.
Well,
I do
nightmare
not.
films are the most fun.
That's true.
For me.
I'm not a dream warrior.
Yeah.
I'm more of a dream child.
So, yes. Michael Myers.
Yeah.
Now, granted, if we're in this room right now. I'll say if we're in this room. We're fucking in this room.
If we were.
Lights go off. Okay?
Baby, when the
Door,
lights
shut the fuck
go.
up. Door opens up. The shape standing right there.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. Scary, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Reset.
scary.
Reset. Darkness. Sitting here.
Touching you.
Shut the fuck up. Door's right there. All of a sudden, door kicks open. Chainsaw starts revving. That'd be pretty scary.
Yeah.
That's Leatherface for you kids at home.
Yeah. For those of you that didn't see him pantomiming
Yeah.
Leatherface dancing around
A chainsaw.
with a chainsaw.
Skin your ass raw.
Okay. You shut the fuck up.
I didn't sing it.
Neither does Fred Durst.
Snake eyes.
Snake eyes.
No, I mean, yeah. No, okay, so sorry, go ahead. Yeah. Same here. Michael Myers is the best.
A big factor of it is the music.
Not the William Shatner mask.
The thing about the shape, the William Shatner Halloween mask that they used to make it for the 78 original, is that it's so expressionless. You could argue that so is the hockey mask, but there's still a human quality to the shape.
You can see his eyes.
Yeah, and like Jason is like, there's an anger there, whereas like with Michael Myers, unless it's like Tyler Mane Michael Myers, but we don't talk about that one. Like Nick Castle, Michael Myers is straight up just like he just is.
Mm-hmm.
He just
one of my favorite things. He's like, "Hey, John Carpenter, how should I walk? Like, should I do this?" And he's like, "Just walk."
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's just unrelenting.
Yeah.
You know, the thing about Jason I've always liked is that, granted, I don't necessarily love the movies, but like, he's the coolest fucking dude, man. Like, he's just a badass. Like, I'm gonna search Jason Voorhees statue.
Jason Voorhees badass.
Jason Voorhees badass.
I was Dead by Daylight had a free weekend over the weekend.
It's a great game.
It is, and I got the chance to kind of like fuck around with it for the first time, fucking around the house. Also,
Fucking around the house.
Also, Halloween is the only movie my dad ever walked out of because he was so scared when Michael Myers started fucking around the house, by his own admission. But yeah, so I was, which I'm sure kind of like, there was always this kind of thing growing up, like, you don't fuck with Michael Myers. Your dad couldn't handle Michael Myers. And I was playing Dead by Daylight, and you Leatherface is there, and Freddy Krueger's there, and the pig lady from the new Saw movies are there.
Yeah.
Along with not as good original killers. Some of them are fine. But
The Huntress is great.
Huntress is fantastic. The Hum kind of has the same like effect. But the
By the way, watching Sam play, like, I've never watched him play that, but like playing jump scare games is the greatest, funniest fucking thing I've ever
Five
seen.
Nights
in
at
my
Freddy's.
life.
Yeah.
Lord, is the fucking greatest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Well, there isn't necessarily jump scares per se in Dead by Daylight, because it's more like I'm being hunted. Like, you, generally speaking, you know where they're coming from.
Okay.
But when you're playing Dead by, I'm doing all this stuff with Dead by Daylight. I'm eluding all these killers. I'm like, okay, this is fine. They're all a dime a dozen. When Michael Myers shows up, you can see him from a distance, and you can tell when he sees you because of that just white mask and darkness. And you hear that familiar John Carpenter theme. That shit's scary. That's something that scared me for literal decades, that I grew up scared of. And now I'm like seeing him like stand at the top of like a stairs that I need to like climb past or something, or just kind of
In the game, he has a special ability that if he just stands there and watches you for long enough, he gets faster, and he has 3 tiers of his faster speed.
And
which
he can be obsessed with a single character too.
Yeah, well, all the killers can, but yes. Apparently there's advantages and disadvantages for both killer and victim with the obsession thing. But I still haven't quite figured it out. I've been playing the game for like a year.
I'm gonna have to get it. And
it's really fun.
play it.
It's like $10 on Steam.
Yeah, I've never heard
Xbox
of this.
Live, yeah.
Before.
If you get it on Steam, we can play.
And
I have
you
it
can
on
be
Steam.
Bill from Left 4 Dead.
Yeah,
The old man.
From the video game Left 4 Dead.
Yes.
I don't know about that.
He's an old man.
I'm assuming he is an old man. But,
Vietnam vet too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You should play Left 4 Dead because it's a fun zombie game. And that's probably only like $5 now because it's like a 10-year-old game.
Oh God, yeah. It came out while I was in college. I was high school. No.
Yo, I did get an Alien Isolation.
That's a really good game. If you like,
I haven't got. I mean, like, nothing's happened yet, and I
Mhm.
played for like a little bit.
Yeah.
30 minutes, 45 minutes.
Probably around 45 minutes.
I mean,
Again, I'm
think
not
it has,
judging
like-
the whole game on that, but
Yeah.
like, I'm looking forward to when shit starts to hit the fan because it's creepy and nothing's happened yet.
I've watched a couple of my friends play it on Twitch, and yeah, the later
Oh man, I can't.
hours of getting into it are
Yeah.
just.
The Xenomorph actually shows up.
Oh yeah, I can't wait for that. Yeah, it's
Or
super creepy.
have you encountered the androids yet?
No, I haven't even gotten
Yeah.
there yet. Like because
There's a certain point where you have to like evade those guys too because they short circuit.
yeah.
nuts.
There's you're like
or whatever it is.
Ripley's daughter, and like you're on like basically the Nostromo 2.0. It's not called Nostromo, but like you wake up and it's cool because you get to walk around. You're like, holy shit! I feel like I'm on the set. It's all first person. Like I'm on the set of the freaking Alien.
Yeah.
And you've had like the helmets with like the screen and everything, and then you go do a spacewalk and you go on and shit hits the fan and you go into the ship that you're investigating, and then there's all these like things sprawled on the wall and dead bodies and all this that kind of stuff, and they have little jump scares like where it's just like trash or something like that or something popping out. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
But yeah, it's all about stealth and survival in that game.
Yeah.
Chris, Dead by Daylight, I think, kind of has a similar mechanic as the Friday the 13th game.
Indeed, it does.
As someone that's played both, I was wondering, do you have a preference?
Unfortunately, with the two games, my preference is more so based on what my other friends are playing because they're very heavily multiplayer games and better when you're playing with people and when it came out, I had a good group of friends that would play Friday the 13th. They have kind of dwindled because they already were Dead by Daylight fans. So they're like, we just kind of want to go back to Dead by Daylight because there's enough.
Leatherface.
Yeah, right. Yeah, or they just added Freddy Krueger.
Wait, did you guys say if Ghostface was in it?
He is not.
He's not. Okay.
There's rumors that him and Sidney Prescott will show up.
Oh, cool. Because I just Googled image it and they had a picture of like Ghostface. And I didn't know if there was like something.
They just announced a new killer, and I think he was one of the speculations for what it was going to be. It's a new original killer because they have, like Sam said, they have original killers and they have licensed killers. Clown
Man, isn't it?
Yes, some creepy clown. So I really liked Friday the 13th when it first came out, but none of my friends play it anymore. So like I can't enjoy it to the same extent that I had. And now it's been probably 6 months since I've played it. And they just added the first person or the not first person single player mode where you just go around as Jason. And it's like, hey, here's a kid, kill him, this way or whatever.
Wait, like so single player mode,
challenge
like,
mode.
It's just like it's not like an online thing. You just go around as Jason and kill people.
Yeah.
Oh, now I have to play it.
Yeah, you can get it.
I'm not like I like the multiplayer like first person shooter stuff, but I'm not super into like multiplayer in just normal gameplay stuff.
Yeah.
Like I know that Friday the 13th is basically just it's basically like a first person shooter, but it's not a first person shooter. It's multiplayer. But the prospect of just being Jason and walking around killing people.
They just released it.
Fucking exciting.
I'm pretty sure it just got released like last week.
Damn.
Yeah.
Now I have to play that.
Right? I still haven't even downloaded the update because I bought it a while ago. It's a free update to me. I'm sure if you bought it now, it would be a free update to you as well.
Cool.
Unless you got it on like Xbox and they had some weird thing where they're like, no, for Xbox you got to pay.
Yeah,
but it's free for PC.
He's in the Mortal Kombat. I got Mortal Kombat like XL or whatever.
So's Leatherface.
Yeah, Leatherface, Jason, the Predator, the Alien, or like the kind of the big ones. I mean,
Hellboy.
Oh, nice.
Is he?
Or no, Hellboy's in Injustice 2.
Yeah,
which is weird.
Yeah,
yeah.
I
mean, I guess in a way, it's a DC character. So.
Jason is
now.
fucking. Jason is unrelenting.
Wasn't he Vertigo?
Dark Horse.
Dark Horse. No, yeah, okay, but still technically DC, right?
No.
I thought Dark Horse was. Were they ever? No? Well, I have a Superman comic it's a Superman Alien crossover that's Dark Horse.
Alien's
and
got
Batman Predator that was Dark Horse.
Yeah, they got both those licenses.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It's fun. I mean, Jason's like unrelenting as shit in that game, which is pretty.
You gotta
great.
be.
Yeah.
When you're the Voorhees.
But
the Vors. But yeah, so it basically comes down to just Dead by Daylight's a more popular game. So I play Dead by Daylight more because I want to play with my friends.
I recognized the cover. Like I was looking it up. I was like, oh, I see that game all over the place. On
who is your favorite killer? The Huntress?
Yes, my.
No, you're usually Survivor.
Yeah, the few times that I do play as the killer, I prefer to play as the Huntress. But yeah,
I was playing with a friend of the show, John.
Nondescript John
of the nondescript variety.
Yeah. And I gotta go back to his place and have a game night. It's been like
maybe like Friday or something. Not
forever.
This week, but no, you can't do Fridays.
No. So we'll figure something out. Take time off or something.
He did the most John thing. He was a survivor, and so for listeners at home that don't know, like the survivors have to fix 4 power generators, open the exit door, and exit, and the killer just has to kill them. And John's in the middle of fixing a power generator, and the Huntress comes up, like he can hear her humming and stuff, and she sees him, and he sees her, and it's on the other side of a tree, and they kind of like juke each other like Jurassic Park with the Dilophosaurus, where they go up. Like to opposite sides, and then John just goes back to fixing the generator. Like to his credit, the killer, like I guess, presumes he ran because he couldn't be seen anymore. So it was just like, all right, well, it was just like a minor inconvenience for John.
It's fun when things like that happen to work out. Yeah, I've had similar. For me, it was an accident. For John, I believe he did it on purpose.
John had the best jump scare where he
I love when he would get freaked out too, because it takes a little bit from the get freaked out, but then it's fucking hilarious.
He had 2 now that I think about it. The first one was he found out what basements were. The basements, for listeners, it is like never go there if you're like a survivor because there's like only one way out. And this was like when we were playing against Michael Myers, actually. So we were he went down into the basement, and he was just like, what the fuck is this place? What the fuck is this place? Like, he sees, like, the hooks and everything, like, on the wall. And he's like, is there no way? Like, he's going through, and he's like, is there no other way out? And he turns, and I'm playing next to him so I can see his screen. And Michael Myers is just standing there at the top, and, like, the music's going, and I'm just like, oh, buddy, you're fucked. And the other moment was he hid. It was another Michael Myers moment. Again, Michael Myers is scary as shit. He hid in one of the closets. And Michael Myers just flung both doors open and just, like, cocked his head, grabbed him, and that was it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was pretty sweet.
Never hide in the lockers against a Huntress because occasionally she has to refill her hatchets, and she gets the hatchets from inside the lockers. So she's going to be going into lockers randomly.
Yeah. Another thing is, have you ever, like, slid across a pallet and been caught?
Oh, yeah.
I was caught by Michael Myers.
Yeah.
Again, fucking Michael Myers.
Yeah. He's your weakness.
He's the Shape.
Yeah.
I love how they just call him the Shape.
Yeah. Well, I think the certain things with the licensing, because because Freddy Krueger is also called the Nightmare.
Yeah, and it's 2010 Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
Which is probably the cheapest one to license.
I'm sure. Not Freddy's Dead
Yeah.
or New Nightmare.
Yeah. Well, that's the insane design too.
Yeah.
Like it's all like exposed, like muscle tissue and everything.
And then Leatherface.
The cannibal.
Yeah, the cannibal.
Because they have the hillbilly, which is basically the same character.
It is the exact same character with a different skin.
Yeah. A slightly different chainsaw mechanic too.
Yeah. Different enough.
Yeah. And the pig from Saw.
Yeah. Which, Amanda.
You can also be Danny Glover's character from Saw.
Yes.
Oh, really?
So if
yeah,
you
although
ever
it
wanted
does
to be...
not look like Danny Glover.
No, they didn't. Just like Laurie Strode does not look like Jamie Lee Curtis.
No, she's blonde.
Yeah. Still has the teased out hair,
Yeah.
and wearing 70s clothing.
But never play Laurie Strode. She's a crap survivor.
Yeah. Just watch Halloween Resurrection.
Yeah.
It's everything you need to know.
Yeah.
But don't watch Halloween Resurrection.
No, watch H2O. That's a good sequel.
Yeah. That's arguably the best.
Yeah.
Would you... Okay, 2 or H2O?
2.
I think I lean towards H2O. But that was also my introduction to the series.
That's hard to break.
Yeah.
That's a winner.
Mm-hmm.
So they're both decent. Like, we were talking Law of Diminishing Returns over dinner earlier today. Like, what movie series? Halloween's one of them. But it does spike up with H2O.
Yeah. And then it goes back to diminishing.
Yeah. Jaws, for me, is like the weakest, the fastest dropping in quality movie series.
Yeah.
Jaws, awesome. One of the greatest films of all time. Jaws 2, kind of a...
Not so good.
kind of a schlocky cash-in. Like, there's some decent moments, but it's still, like... It's like there's a noticeable drop in production quality. 3 is, like, laughably bad. 4 is somehow even more laughably bad.
But without 4, we would not get that great Michael Caine quote about how he hasn't seen the movie, but he has seen the house that it bought.
He also has my favorite quote in the film. Oh, shit. Like, the shark is clearly coming towards him, and he just very, like, nonchalantly... it's just like, oh, shit.
First movie I ever bought on DVD.
Jaws the Revenge.
Jaws the Revenge.
Yeah.
I like to say it was the first Jaws because I got that right after, like first movie. But no, it was really Jaws 4.
Actually, oddly enough, Jaws was one of the first movies I got on DVD.
I got the 20th anniversary. No, 25th anniversary edition, I think. Something. I don't know. But I got it.
Okay.
I got it.
Ooh, baby, she's got it.
Yeah.
Ooh, baby,
What if you could
love
be
you,
Bruce the shark in Dead by Daylight and you're just like a shark running around?
Did you ever play the Jaws video game?
No. Like the one on Xbox?
Yeah, not the one on the NES.
Yeah, no. I thought about getting it like way back when it was like super cheap or
Yeah.
whatever, like just because you're just running around eating people.
Yeah.
Or you swim around eating people.
Yeah, busting up oil pipelines too,
Oh, really?
because he can do that.
Message.
Yeah, it's a movie with a message. My God, definitely check out Dead by Daylight and Friday the 13th, the game.
Cool.
Both fine games. Just play them with friends.
Probably cheap as hell for I think Dead by Daylight's 10, and I'm sure Friday the 13th, which came out around the same time, is probably about as much. I mean, you've had it since launch.
I have.
You've had it since like beta.
Yes,
Yeah.
I did have beta access.
Yeah.
When it was like $50.
Get that them early streams.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks again to Bryan Edward Hill for coming on our fine program. Aphrodite V, again, out in comic book stores everywhere on July 18th. Check out all his other books too, Cyberforce, Detective Comics. I mean, that's wild. We got somebody that's writing Batman and Superman now. Separately. I mean,
Spider-Man?
Spider-Man. Yeah, right.
Still.
Yeah, and Hong Kong Phooey.
Basically the same character.
Yeah. #1 super guy. But yeah, this has been another installment of Catching Up. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jake. Thank you very much.
Good night, Eric Bana.
This has been another Geek Out production. If you enjoyed what you heard, hey, we've got a special episode every Friday. Of course, there's the usual Catching Up show every Wednesday. And you get book club episodes just about every Tuesday these days. Thanks for listening.